Welcome one, welcome all. This is TK Coleman. Say hi to me in the comments and tell me in one word, how are you feeling today? No right or wrong feeling to have. Just want to know the one that you're actually feeling. It can be, hey, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling sad, feeling tired, feeling energetic. Tell me how you're feeling today. Mixed emotions, unfit. Hey, good evening. Good evening. It's so good to be back. It's I had a lot of fun talking with you all last week. I look forward to really building on some of the themes that we discussed last week. For anyone that's here for the first time, hopefully you had a chance to see the video and get caught up. And I want to make sure today I make a little bit more time for Q&A, because last time I think I got to like the 10-minute mark and you all had a lot of questions. So I'd love to be able to spend more time on that so we don't rush through it. I think that's some of the most valuable time. Hello. We're just giving everybody time to trickle in. I've still got a lot of people coming in. Let's just give 1 minute. Feeling stellar. I love it. Excited. Optimistic. Feeling stressed. Another optimistic. Pretty good, but tired. Feeling scared. Happy. Tired. Feeling all right. Chill day. Cheers. Feeling good. Motivated. Good. Great. Pretty good. You know, life is kind of like a work of art, and the different feelings that you have are like the paint that you use for the canvas of your life. They're like the keys on the keyboard. There's not a bad key on that keyboard. There's not a bad string on that guitar. It's all about how you work with it. It's all about how you use it. And some of the most beautiful art, some of the most brilliant ideas have come from mood spaces of sadness, of jealousy, of anger and frustration. But it's all about how you channel it. It's all about what you do with it. So if you feel bad, don't feel bad over feeling bad. Don't beat yourself up for the way you feel. Embrace it. The value of who you are as a person is not determined by what mood you are in right now. Moods are like the seasons. They come and go. They change. Some days you wake up and it's cold outside and you wish it was warm. Some days you want to go outside and it's rainy, but the rainy days, the cold days, just as meaningful as the sunny days. They're different. They may not be as fun in the same way, but you can work with them. There's always a way to work with it. Feeling all right, content, refreshed. All right. I love the engagement. I love the transparency. Still got a few more trickling in. 30 seconds. We're gonna 30 seconds will be go time. I feel fine. I feel empty, overwhelmed, tired. For those of you who are just tuning in, welcome to Revolution of One Session Part 2. This is TK Coleman, and we're just sharing in the chat how we're feeling in one word. Okay, nervous. Okay, energetic. Got a wide range. The full emotional spectrum is being represented tonight. I love it. I love the transparency. Love the honesty. Excited. Happy. I love it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Anybody else who comes in, they can join us along the way. But welcome to part 2. It's good to see you all again. Good to be here tonight. Let's let's just review what we went over last week, because I talked to you about a story. It's the story of the magic penny, and I want to underscore 3 lessons or insights that we took away from last week. The first was, you are responsible for your world. Remember, we made the distinction between responsibility and blame. When I say you are responsible for your world, that does not mean it is your fault that there is a problem, or that you should feel bad for everything that's happening in your world, or you deserve what you're experiencing. That's not what that means. To be responsible means that you have the power to respond with ability. So even if it is not your fault, you are the one that has the creative ability to actually turn that situation around and to turn it into something good. That power is within you. And so much of what we talked about was learning to take your personal power seriously. When you have that impulse, you look at something in the world and you see something that needs changing, and you say somebody ought to do something about that, that somebody is you. That somebody is you. And entrepreneurs and leaders are people who adopt what we call the mindset of permissionless innovation. Without asking for permission, they make things happen. Without waiting on somebody else to come along, they create the changes themselves. You know, one of my favorite examples of this is there's a story of a Black designer. And this designer, you know, would often need a lot of stock photos for their work, right? And so they would go to sites like unsplash.com or other stock photo sites. And they noticed that there just wasn't a lot of stock photos of Black people. And it kind of bothered them. Now, here's the interesting thing about having, about seeing a problem like that. Well, one of the challenging things about a problem like that is, number one, there are people in this world that are going to disagree with you. There are people that are going to say, oh, well, I'm not really bothered by that. There are people that are going to say, well, man, I kind of disagree with you there. I think you're making something an issue that's not really an issue. And I want to tell you what this person did, because when you see a problem in the world, you can argue with other people about that problem all day long, and you can wear yourself out trying to get other people to see it in the same way, and talk to anybody sitting next to you, talk to your folks that you live with at home, talk to your neighbors, talk to any human being that you have ever met, and they will tell you that you're never going to succeed at changing the way everybody sees the world through argument. That doesn't mean you shouldn't communicate. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to be persuasive. But if your only approach to dealing with problems is arguing everybody else into seeing it the way you see it, you're going to live a very frustrated life. And that was one of the problems with our guy with the magic penny, right? He saw a problem. Nobody else agreed with him. They thought he was crazy. They thought he was hallucinating. And you and I came up together with a way for him to change that problem in a way that didn't require other people to agree with him. You know, there's a good example of this. I'm coming back to the story. Don't worry. In the movie The Matrix, there's a character named Morpheus, and Morpheus has a way of seeing things that's really strange to a lot of people. And there's one scene where Morpheus is talking to this guy, and Morpheus says to him, he says, you know, our only hope is Neo. And the guy gets angry at Morpheus, and he says, Morpheus, not everybody, you know, believes in oracles and fairies and magical things and prophets. Not everyone believes as you believe. And Morpheus looks at him and he says, fortunately, my beliefs do not require them to. That is power. When you can look another person in the eye and say, look, I know what I believe. I know what I stand, and my beliefs do not require your permission. I don't need you to agree with me in order to be at peace with myself, and in order to know that I have the power to make a difference in my world in accordance with my vision. Even if you think I'm crazy, I have that power. I have that creative ability. That's true power. But you know what most people do? Most people live frustrated lives because what they do is they have an idea or they see a problem that needs to be solved. Then they go arguing with everybody about it. And people say, well, I don't agree with you. I don't buy your argument. I disagree. I think you're wrong. And then they kind of, you know, take themselves out of the game. They're just frustrated and they feel like, well, nothing can ever change because nobody sees things the way I see it. But I want to propose to you, and this is one of the lessons we learned last week. Leaders don't just try to change the way people see the world. Leaders dare to change the world that people see. And you can change the world that people see, even if you don't change the way they see it beforehand. Remember, one of the things we talked about last week is if everybody saw the world the way you did, we wouldn't need you. You would be replaceable. If I had all of your ideas, what do we need two of us for? The reason we need each individual, the reason that we're all here on this earth is because we all bring something to the table that other people won't see until you and me bring it forth. We have to make it happen. And then after we make it happen, everybody pretends like it was always obvious, right? After we make it happen, everyone's like, oh yeah, of course we need that, right? It's like the invention of the automobile. When the automobile was first invented, by the way, when people talk about this, they romanticize history. They treat the car like it was this obviously good idea, and it was not. When the automobile was first invented, everybody was afraid of it. And everybody thought it was a stupid idea. And I'll tell you why. Because the primary way that people traveled at that time was by horse and carriage. And the roads were designed for horse travel. That's how the roads were built. And those roads are very different. And a road that's designed for horses, it doesn't work very well on a road that's designed, a road that's designed for horses doesn't work very well for a machine that runs on wheels. And so the automobile had to prove itself in an environment that just wasn't agreeing with it. And it couldn't demonstrate what it was really worth because these roads aren't right for the automobile. And people saw this automobile as this like really dangerous thing. Many of you have heard of the phrase red flag. You know, they say, oh, that's a red flag. What does that mean? What does that mean? That usually means something like, oh, that's a bad thing, right? That's a negative thing. Well, you know where that came from? It came from back in the day when the automobile was this new scary thing. There was a law that said in order to operate an automobile, you've got to have an engineer in the passenger seat with you. And you need somebody with a red flag running ahead of the automobile, waving it back and forth so that everybody can know that this giant, dangerous death machine is coming your way and they can get out of the way. That's how we saw automobiles. Now, years later, it's just obvious. Of course, that was a genius invention, right? But the majority of people were against it when the idea first happened. That's why Henry Ford said, if I had asked my customers what they wanted, they would have told me to make a faster horse. You know, the way that you create, the way that you make the world a better place, it isn't by waiting for the world to catch up with you. It isn't by waiting for the world to agree with your vision. It's by taking responsibility for bringing your vision forth. And the world will see it after you see it and after you bring it forth. I remember hearing one time Walt Disney, when he passed away, he was at his funeral. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't at his funeral, but he passed away. It was at the Epcot Center. They were opening the Epcot Center, and someone stood there and they said, you know, this is such a beautiful place, and I just wish that Walt Disney could be here to see it. And his wife came up after that person, and his wife said, you know, I just want to make one correction. That young man said that he wishes Walt Disney could have been here to see it, but what I want to say is he saw it before everybody else. Before anybody else knew that this was possible, before anybody else believed that this could be a thing, he saw it. He saw it in his imagination, and he dared to believe in it at a time when everybody else was like, that's crazy. I don't agree with you. That's a bad idea. That's what leaders do. That's what creators do. Nappy.co. Let's go to this designer. This designer says, I need stock photos. Everywhere I go, I see stock photos of everybody but people of color, and I want stock photos of people of color. And so they created their own website, nappy.co. And they went out, reached out to Black photographers, and they said, hey, I want to create a space where we can do this thing, and where people want stock photos of Black people, they have a place they can go. And that site exists now. You can go to nappy.co now, and you'll see a wide array of stock photos of Black people. And guess what? Those people out there who don't think that that's a problem, doesn't even matter. The site exists. Problem solved. You need Black stock photos? There's a place that you can go. The people who never thought that was a problem in the first place, you don't even need their agreement, right? You can solve the problem. You can create value for other people. And the world just became a better place because all the people who wanted that resource now have that resource because someone said, I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm not just going to look at the problem. I'm not just going to be angry about it, but I'm going to take this anger and I'm going to channel it into creative action. And I'm going to make the world a better place as a result of my vision. A leader is someone who takes personal responsibility for creating changes in their world. Second lesson that we learn is that a leader is someone who respects the power of creativity. What does it mean to have a problem? To have a problem means that you are temporarily stuck in one way of seeing things, and that way of seeing things isn't working for you. That's what it means to have a problem. But the beauty of life is that there's always another way of seeing things besides the one that you have. And if you can see things from a different angle, from a different perspective, from a different vantage point, you can resolve that problem. You may not make the problem disappear, but you'll be able to find a way around it, or you'll be able to find a way to create the results that matter most to you even if the problem stays there forever. That's what creativity is. And we saw that illustrated in the story because you helped me find a solution to this problem that didn't result in him looking crazy. And I think you all came up with solutions in about 30 seconds or less. Now, that ability, that's something that you can do in your own life. That's something that you can do for your own story, not just for this man's story. You know, let me give you an example from my own life. I remember when I was in, this was like 5th, 6th grade. And this was my first girlfriend. There was this girl, I liked her so much, man. And she was my girlfriend, you know? And I remember it was her birthday, right? And we're in school together. And poor me, terrible me, young, naive, absolutely ridiculous me, I didn't get her anything for her birthday. So you probably think I deserve what's coming to me. I didn't get anything for her birthday, you know. And tough lesson learned. But anyway, I'm standing next to her, right? And there's this other guy. How do I describe this other guy? Y'all ever seen that? Y'all ever read the books or seen the movie Twilight? Let me know in the comments. I want to know if y'all familiar with that. Y'all familiar with Twilight? Yes, I got some Twilight people. What's that guy's name? Okay, who's the lead guy? He's the vampire guy. Y'all gonna help me tell this story. This is getting participatory. Edward. Okay, that's his name, Edward. And then you had the other guy. He was the werewolf dude. Jacob. Okay, thank you very much. And the Edward's girlfriend, the girl that they both liked, Bella. Thank you. Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you so much. Okay, so Edward was technically Bella's boyfriend, right? He was technically Bella's boyfriend. But Jacob was kind of cool, you know? Jacob was kind of smooth. You know, he was easy on the eyes. And so when Jacob would come around, you know, sometimes Edward would feel a little threatened, right? Well, let's say in this story, I'm kind of like Edward. My girlfriend is kind of like Bella. And this dude, he's like the Jacob of my story. He's smooth. He's easy on the eyes. He's funny. He's the kind of cat, when he came around, I felt so threatened. I felt so threatened. So it's her birthday. I'm standing next to her. This guy walks up. Check this out. He walks up to her and he says, you know, I don't have like a box on me, so I'll use my Kindle. He has a box of candy, right? And he says, hey, happy birthday. He says, I bought you some candy. And she takes the box of candy and she says, oh, that's so sweet. Right? And I'm like, I'm watching this whole thing unfold in front of my eyes. And I'm like, what? What? You gonna disrespect me like that? What? And the guy looks at me as he's walking off. He looks at me and gives me that wink. Like, I got you. Oh my gosh. My heart like sank at that moment. I felt so embarrassed. I felt so jealous. I felt so mad, so insecure. I felt all of these emotions. And I remember I went home and I was pouting, you know, sad and upset. And my older brother G says, man, what are you crying about? And I tell him the situation. And he says, he's like, you really need to learn how to lighten up and play the game. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'll show you. Okay. He says, let's act this scenario out. I want you to pretend like you're the guy and I'm going to be you. And I'm standing here talking to your girlfriend. You be the guy, walk up with this box of chocolates. And I go, oh, okay. And so I grab my little box of chocolates and I walk up, to him and I say, hey, happy birthday. Here's a box of chocolates. And my brother goes, oh man, turtles? Dude, those are my favorite. And then he grabs the turtle, he eats it, and he says, hey, thanks, baby. I appreciate it, man. And he gives me a bro hug. And immediately I started laughing. And my brother says, look, you lose your sense of humor, you lose, period. But if you can laugh at it, you can live through it. And I never forgot that moment because I want to point out something interesting that he didn't do. He didn't go up to the school and give that guy a talking to. He didn't go up to the school and tell that guy, don't ever buy a gift for his girlfriend again. He didn't do that. Like, the guy is still there in my reality. He couldn't make the guy disappear. He didn't go up to my girlfriend and say, don't you ever take a gift from some other dude again. No, because you can't control other people. You can say, well, that's unfair. You can say, well, he shouldn't have done that. And hey, you're on my side. But you can't control other people. So he didn't teach me how to control other people. But what he taught me how to do, he taught me how to reframe my experience. He taught me that no matter what your problem is, no matter what that thing is that's stressing you out, that's embarrassing you, that's making you frustrated, there is always another way of seeing it. And if that thing is showing up in your life like a problem, it's because you are temporarily stuck in a situation where you're looking at it one way. And if you can get out of your head and look at it another way, you might find yourself smiling where you were previously frowning. You might find yourself laughing where you were previously angry. That's what comedians do. They take all the things that we're serious about, that we're upset about, and they make us laugh at ourselves because they give us another way to see things. You know, listening to comedians can actually be a very good exercise. You know, a lot of people nowadays, they talk about, you know, meditating every day and exercising every day. I think those things are good, but, you know, I suggest everybody listen to 10 minutes of comedy every day. Listen to 10 minutes of it every day, even if it turns out not to be funny, because comedians are really, really good at getting you to see things in a surprising way, in a different way. And if you can catch that way of thinking, you don't have to be funny. You don't have to be a comedian, but you can become really good at looking at one situation and seeing it in like 5 or 6 different ways. And that's when you have options. You become the kind of person where you wake up and you go, oh man, I was hoping that the weather would be good today, but it's raining. Hey, you know what? I got a few ideas for something that we can do that's real fun and perfect for the rain. Oh, you know what? Like, I wanted to win that client over, but our competitor won them over. But you know what? I got a couple ideas for something that we can do to actually make good of this situation. Oh, you know what? I was hoping that we could buy that, but turns out we're a couple $100 short, can't afford it. But you know what? I got a couple ideas for something that we can do that's within our budget and that can actually get us where we're trying to go, right? Being mentally healthy, being successful, being self-confident, it's all about having multiple perspectives that you can draw from. And that's what gives rise to that creativity. That's what helps you. You know, one of the best pieces of advice I ever received was from millionaire Peter Daniels. He said, over the course of your lifetime, read 1,000 biographies, because in doing so, you will build a vast vocabulary for overcoming incredible odds. Let me break down what he was talking about. What he was saying is that everything that you're going through, every problem that you have, everything that you think is like this big unsolvable thing, there are other people too who have stories. And they've lived out that very problem just in a different way. And when you study other people's stories, you develop this ability to kind of think differently about your problems. You know, I quoted James Baldwin last week, and I said, James Baldwin said, nothing is more important than a human being. There's something else that he said. He says, you think you are alone with your troubles, but then you read. And when you read, you discover that you are a link in the chain of many human beings who've gone before you, who suffered the same or similar things. And studying other people's lives can help you bring a greater sense of context and motivation to your own life. So respect your creative ability, respect your creative power, and understand that that comes from the ability to look at your problems from a different vantage point, because that's what a problem is. Temporary condition where you're stuck in a particular way of seeing. The third lesson that we learned last week was nothing is more important than a human being. The fastest way to success, to well-being, to wealth, not the fastest, but the most sustainable way, is to serve other people, to make the people around you better. I think about that Last Dance documentary about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. You know, there was a moment where, you know, Jordan is the best player on the team. He's scoring all the points. And this is kind of how we think about greatness. You know, we think about greatness as being the best of the best. And there's a moment where his coach, Phil Jackson, told him, stop trying to be Superman and pass the ball. And when Jordan got that through his head and he realized, okay, I can lead the league in scoring, I can score more points than anybody else. Nobody can stop me. I can look good playing the game. But until I can help my teammates take it to a new level, I'm really not a leader. And I'm really never going to hit that upper echelon of success that transforms me into a champion. You can be flashy and cool and stylish on your own, but when it comes to being great, you can't be that until you can make other people great, until you can inspire them to be great as well. Those are the 3 lessons that we learned last week. And tonight I want to give you one other insight to add on to that. And then I want to spend some time on Q&A so we can talk about what's on your heart and what's on your mind. I'm going to tell you another story. And, before I get into the story, one thing I want to say that there's a book by Marlo Thomas called The Right Words at the Right Time. And it begins with a quote that's very powerful. It says, "Tell me a truth and I will learn. Tell me a fact and I will believe. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever." Stories are very powerful. And wherever you go, you should learn to look for stories because everybody's got one. The people around you have stories. Your parents have stories. I bet you your parents have powerful stories that you don't even know how to ask them about, that you kind of take for granted because that's just mom and dad. But everybody's got stories. The movies that you watch, the TV shows that you watch, when you watch them, yeah, it's fun. Watch it for entertainment. But open your heart and mind to the possibility that life can speak to you through those stories and give you very valuable lessons. Because the thing to be understood about human beings is that we don't just respond to instructions. You need to work harder. You need to do better. You need to da 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 da. No. What we respond to is stories because stories have the ability to capture our hearts, to seize our imagination. To tell a story or to listen to a story is to paint pictures with words. And when you do that, you can kind of see yourself. Through stories, we get a glimpse of our own potential. And so stories are very powerful. And I want to encourage you to pay attention to the stories that are around you, pay attention to the story that you're living, and even be open to the idea that the things you just look at as entertainment, as just a TV show, as just a book that you're reading, that there may be powerful life lessons in there just waiting for you to see them. So just be open to that. All right, so I'm going to tell you the story of a superhero named Noragami. Noragami was a very powerful superhero, and he lived in a world filled with other superheroes. And he had to compete with these other superheroes to be able to help other people. And the reason he had to compete was because this world had a very strange property about it. The strange property was this: as a superhero, the more followers you had, the more power and money that you had. And if you didn't have a lot of followers or you didn't have, a lot of fans, then your powers would start to weaken. And you also wouldn't be able to have money that you needed to eat. And Noragami didn't have any followers. He didn't have any fans. And so he's homeless and he's sleeping on a park bench and he's muttering to himself. And he says to himself, this just ain't right. I'm one of the most creative superheroes. I'm smarter than all these other superheroes. But here I am sitting on a park bench with no money. I feel my power is getting weaker because I don't have any followers. I don't have any fans. I got to do something about this. So he takes a walk to kind of get his creative juices flowing. And then he says, you know what? I need to do better at marketing. Yeah, I got to market myself better. And he looks around for a place and he says, he sees a school. And he says, there are always problems at school. People are always stressed out about something at school. I'm going to go to school. And he goes to school. And because he's a superhero, nobody can see him. And he decides to write on the wall a set of instructions that says, I am Noragami. I'm a superhero. I can solve any of your problems. And if you utter this magical chant, I will appear and I will solve whatever your problem is. And so he writes that message on the wall. Then he leaves, goes back to the park bench, and he waits and hopes for someone to call. Meanwhile, in the classroom, there's a young boy who doesn't quite fit in. And the other kids kind of tease him and they mock him. You know how mean some people can be. Some people, they'll make fun of your shoes. They'll make fun of your clothes. They'll make fun of the way you talk. People will make fun of anything. It's sad, but there are people who make themselves feel big by making others feel small. And that's what they were doing to this boy. They were making themselves feel big by making him feel small. And so this boy started to cry. And he runs out into the hall and starts to cry because he just wants to get away from the people that are bullying him. And he sees the writing on the wall. And he says, you know, I don't have anything else going on. I might as well try. And then he says the magical incantation, and he sees a pillar of smoke. He sees a great cloud. And then poof, appears Noragami. And the boy says, who are you? And Noragami says, I am Noragami, a superhero. I am at your service. Tell me your troubles. And the kid goes, okay, well, you know, the other students, they bully me and I don't know how to deal with it. And I'm afraid of them. They never stop making fun of me. Noragami says, look me deeply in the eyes. He says, I see your problem. My gosh, kid, you've got a lot of self-defeating thoughts. Do you think like this all the time? And the kid says, what do you mean? Noragami says, listen to yourself. And he pushes some buttons in the air, and the kid begins to hear his own voice, but as if it were coming from a speaker. And he had all kinds of thoughts going on, like, I'm a loser. I'm not smart. Nobody likes me. I'll never be successful. I can't do anything. I have no gifts. I have no talents. And the kid said, wow, that's what I sound like? Noragami said, that's what you sound like. He says, but let me tell you the worst part. He says, those thoughts have manifested into a monster that is attacking you. The kid says, what? Noragami pulls back the veil from the physical world and he shows them the spiritual world. And there's this giant monster. And the kid screams. Noragami says, don't scream. Those are your thoughts. Your thoughts have taken the form of a monster that's now creating trouble in your life. And the kid says, well, I don't want a monster. What do I do? Noragami says, no need to fear. Noragami is here. I'm going to take care of this for you, kid. I'm going to break the connection between you and this monster. I'm going to make this thing dissipate, and you're going to be able to have a fresh start. You'll be able to go to your life, and you'll be able to reinvent yourself. The kid says, you really can do that? Noragami says, I can really do that. Noragami waves his wand. He creates smoke, and he says, by the power of the wind and the water within thee, unbind him. The connection is severed. The monster dissipates, and everything is quiet. And the boy says, has anything changed? Noragami says, go back into the classroom, and you'll see that everything's changed. The boy goes back into the classroom. Nobody messes with him. He sits down. Nobody teases him. And he thinks, this is real odd. So he walks up to the guy that bullies him the most, and he says, hey, you're not going to bully me today? And the guy says, I don't even know who you are, man. He goes, my name's Tim, though. What's your name? And the kid goes, you've never seen me before? And Tim says, no. Have any of y'all seen him before? And he said, and everyone turns around, they look, they say, no, we don't notice you. And the boy realizes that the reset button has been hit. He really does have a fresh start. And he begins to cry because that's not what he wanted. And he runs back out into the hallway and says, oh, Noragami, you ruined everything. Noragami says, what? Kid, I just gave you a fresh start. What are you talking about? And the kid says, well, nobody remembers me now. I mean, you made the bullying disappear, and that's good, I suppose, but nobody remembers me. I don't have any friends now. Now I got to start all over. Noragami said, kid, that's what you need. That's what's going to help you create a good life. And he says, no, everything is all worse now, Noragami. Make it go back. And then Noragami gets frustrated. He loses his temper. And he says, you pathetic human beings. All of you guys are idiots. I'm out of here. I'm done with you. Noragami walks off, goes back to the park, lays on the park bench. And he says, man, I just don't understand why I can't have any followers or fans. I'm the most creative, powerful superhero out there. And nobody likes me. I just don't get it. This story contains such an important and powerful lesson about what it takes to lead and what it takes to succeed. Here we have a guy who was very powerful. He was a superhero. He was the best at what he did. He was very creative. And not only was he very creative, but he actually did something for somebody else that was really pretty impressive. And yet it didn't work. Yet he didn't have any followers. He didn't have any fans. Why not? The reason he didn't is because the value of your ability, the value of your creativity isn't based on how impressed you are with yourself. It's based on how well you can serve others and how well you can meet their needs. And the reason that Noragami didn't have any fans, didn't have any followers, it wasn't because he didn't have power. It wasn't because he didn't have creativity. It's because he didn't understand what value creation is all about. Value creation is about making yourself a student of other human beings and saying, how can I help you? What do you need? You know, I run a business and my customers are very different from me. And sometimes my idea about what's cool and good is very different from my customer's idea about what's cool and good. And in those moments, you know what I have to do? I have to take my idea of what's cool and good and put that on the shelf and look my customers in the eye and say, how can I make you happy? How can I satisfy you? What can I do for you today? And I don't give up until I figured out how to make that customer happy, how to satisfy them. And that's not just a business owner thing. That's not just an artist thing. No matter what it is you want to do in life, you are going to need other people to cooperate with you, to collaborate with you, and to create with you. There is not a single dream you will ever have that you will ever be able to fulfill independently of getting other people to cooperate and collaborate with you. No matter who you are, you need somebody on your side. And how do you do that? By thinking about what you want in terms of what other people want and realizing that how do you get what you want? We talked about this last week. Best way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want. This is the message of Noragami. This is the lesson of service. Last week, we learned about the importance of being creative and the importance of taking responsibility for the problems that you see in your world. But this is about translating all of that into value creation for other people on their terms. So I want to do a little thought exercise with you right now. And I want you to go to the chat to kind of tell me your answers, because I want to give you a way of thinking about this in your own life. Because I want to give you a way of thinking about this in your own life. So I'm going to give you some questions and I want you to give me your answers. You don't have to like think it through really deeply. I want you to tell me some kind of food you like that none of your friends, none of the people in your social network like. So don't just tell me something that you like. I want you to specifically pick something that the people around you, it makes them go yuck when you talk about it or when they see you eat it. I want you to name it here. Pineapple and pizza, peanut butter and mayo sandwiches, shrimp, mashed potato casserole, black olives, broccoli, frog legs, mustard, nothing. Don't worry, nothing. I'm going to have a question that works for you. Scallops, sushi, black coffee, crickets, tuna. I don't know what natto is. Okay, goat meat, carrots. All right, awesome. We got a lot of options. Okay, I want you to tell me whenever you buy that food, like where do you get it from? Like tell me where do you get this food from that nobody likes but you? Asian stores, Walmart, Pizza Hut, supermarket, Cape Cod. Oh, okay. Grocery store, Asian store, Walmart, E-Mart, Target. All right. Whole Food, African store. Good stuff. All right. Let's try music. I want you to tell me what's one music artist or music genre that you like that nobody else likes. When you listen to this music, people are like, come on, what are you listening to? Country, Native American music, Hamilton, classical, you going fast, jazz, her, K-pop, reggae, video game music, Afro beats, show tunes, classical, slow jazz, rock, Johnny Cash, chill beat, K-pop. All right, now tell me, where do you listen to music? What app do you use? Where do you go when you want to listen to new music? All right, YouTube, chill beats, anywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. All right, Amazon, Pandora. All right, Spotify, CD, YouTube. Okay. All right, let's go with actors and movies. Tell me one actor that you really like or a movie that you really like. And when you talk about this, your friends just laugh at you because they don't get you at all. Hunger Games, Sofia Vergara, Adam Sandler, Sandra Bullock, The Purge, Morris Chestnut, The Bird Box, Grey's Anatomy, All American. Okay. Dark, Michael B. Jordan, Vin Diesel, Vampire Diaries. Awesome. Tell me, where do you watch movies? Where do you watch movies? Netflix. What's your preferred app? Streaming platforms. Netflix is dominated, huh? Amazon Plus. Okay, we got some more. Hulu, YouTube. Okay, Netflix, Hulu. All right. Okay, Amazon Prime. All right, good stuff. All right. So I want to point out something to you based on the answers that you just gave me, okay? And these are basic facts that you live with every day. They're only new to me, but not to you. I want to point out something to you. So first, I requested that you tell me something that you like that no one else likes in the categories of food, music, and movies. And all of you came up with answers easily. You were putting out answers faster than I could come up with. So all of you have things that you like. I didn't tell you that these things were weird. I didn't tell you that you shouldn't like them, but these were things that you chose, that the people in your social network go, ugh, what's that all about when you talk about it? When I asked you, where do you listen? Where do you buy? Where do you go? You know what's interesting to me? Not a single one of you said, I can't find it anywhere. All of you, just like that, you were coming up with places. Oh, I get this from Walmart. I get this from Amazon Prime. Or I watch this on Netflix, Asian stores, African stores. You all had some place you can go. I want to ask you, what does that tell you about your interest? Take a guess. What does that tell you about your interest? Those two little observations. You gave me examples of music, movies, and food that nobody else in your circle likes, and yet you had an easy time telling me a place you could go. That there are other people that like it too. We always know where to go when we want something. It is in demand. We are all connected. Yeah. All of those answers are right. Now, here's the interesting thing. Everywhere I go, I meet people who say things like, I love to make a new comic book, but it's probably stupid. Nobody will want to read it. Or people say to me things like, yeah, I want to write this song, but yeah, nobody will want to listen to it. Or, I thought about this business idea, but if it was any good, somebody else would have thought about it. That's what we do to our taste and to our interest when we think as creators. But here's the interesting thing. According to this thought experiment we just did, whenever you think about your interest and your taste as consumers, you have an easy time going somewhere to buy things that accommodate your interest and taste. What that tells you is that this world is big enough to accommodate your interest and taste. And not only that, but there are businesses out there that are making millions of dollars doing nothing more than knocking themselves over to satisfy your taste. Oh, you like country music and all your friends laugh at you for it? Oh, please come to our platform and listen to country music. Oh, you like comic books and your friends think that's weird? Please come to our store and buy as many comic books as you want. No matter how weird or eccentric or crazy your tastes are, there are million and billion dollar industries that are working full time trying to give you products and services that satisfy those tastes. And what's funny, or it's interesting, is that when you go out to buy products, you have confidence. When you want to listen to country, you don't sit back and go, oh man, I really want to listen to country, but my friends don't like it, so I guess I can't listen to it. You don't say that. You say, I really want to listen to country, my friends don't like it, but so what? I'm going to go on Spotify. When you want to watch a Vin Diesel movie, you don't say, I really want to watch a Vin Diesel movie, but my friends don't like it. Oh, well, I guess I can't watch it. No, you say, I really want to watch a Vin Diesel movie. My friends don't like it, but that's okay. I'm going to go on Netflix and I don't need them to like it because there is a market for my taste. There is a market for the things that I'm interested in. So what if you flipped that though? What if the same confidence you had as a consumer, you brought to the table as a creator? What if you thought about your interest with the same confidence as a creator as you do as a consumer? What if you said, these ideas that I have for fashion, for business, for music, for student clubs, For creative ideas, I'm going to take those things seriously in the same way that I do when I'm buying something for somebody else. The key to not making the mistake that Noragami made is realizing that your taste and your interest are superpowers that already exist inside of you. But those superpowers won't bring you anything unless you can figure out a way to take them and use them to serve someone else. When you can take the things that you're naturally interested in, the things that are naturally fun to you and enjoyable to you, you can figure out a way to use it to help somebody else. That's when your superpower will begin to work with you. And that's when you will be an extraordinary leader. And you'll realize you don't have to compete with anybody for anything. You don't have to compete with anyone because you are so busy being the best version of yourself, and nobody can be you better than you can be you. That's the way to wealth. That's the way to success. That's the way to creating the results that matter most to you. So here's my homework for you. I want you sometime this week, before the next time I see you, I want you to write down what's something that you're better at than everybody else. Here's another way to think of it if you don't feel like you can answer that question. What's something that you're interested in that everybody else around you thinks is boring? What are those things you want to do or you love doing that the most people in your life don't even care about? I don't want you to do this in the chat, but I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it over the course of this week, and I want you to write that down. And then I want you to ask yourself, what's one thing I can do to solve problems for somebody else using this interest or this hobby that I have? What's one thing I can do? And it's okay if you don't come up with a great answer to this question. I just want you to think about it, because the process of just trying to think about something, even if it's hard, just wrestling with it, trying to wrap your mind around it, can elevate your consciousness to a new level of creativity. So I want you to answer those two questions for me and be prepared to talk about it when we see each other next Friday. I'm pausing right here. I've talked a lot, said a lot of stuff, and I'm almost at time. So I'm going to take some time to do some Q&A. So let's dive in. Grace, I don't know if you're still around, but these questions zip through so fast. Is it possible at all, if you are around and you are available, you will be able to maybe like read some for me, but I can go through if not. But my screen.
Of course. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Hi, everyone. It's Grace here, Senior Coordinator of Partnerships and Events with NSHSS. You wanted me to read some questions out for you?
Yeah, just because my section of the screen is so small and it's just like zipping through. And maybe you can like pick something. And by the way, none's off limits, y'all. Whatever y'all want to ask about the things that are important to you. Also, too, you know, if there's something that you came into this session or last week's session and you wanted to walk away understanding and maybe I didn't cover it, ask me about it. Doesn't matter if I talked about it or not. Okay.
So I like this first one. It's, what book would you recommend to a teenager?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to recommend two. The first is a book called So Good That They Can't Ignore You. So Good That They Can't Ignore You. It's based on advice by the comedian Steve Martin. Someone asked him, advice on success, and he says, be so good that they can't ignore you. And this is a book by Cal Newport, So Good That They Can't Ignore You. And he talks about how to balance this idea of finding your passion with making things happen for others in a way that allows you to get what you want out of life. It's a really powerful book. The second book I'd recommend, my gosh, there's so many. This is so tough. Second book would be The Last Safe Investment by Michael Ellsberg. The Last Safe Investment. And this is a book that essentially talks about the power of betting on yourself. I got a third one. You can't ask me about books. I got a third one because this one is very good for teenager. Actually, both of these. So many of you probably know who Tim Ferriss is. He's got a podcast. You can go on Tim Ferriss's podcast. I think it's called like the 4-Hour Workweek podcast. And he interviews a lot of top performers and things along those lines. But Both of these books, The Tribe of Mentors and The Tool of Titans, I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of them. What he essentially did was he compiled in a very well-structured format, like his interviews with all these different artists and celebrities and entrepreneurs, right? And he breaks it down into like some simple questions, like, you know, what's a failure you had that transformed your life? You know what I mean? Some of these people you're gonna know. Some of them are like famous actors. Some of them are business owners whose names you won't know. But the format of it is very readable, and it's very well organized. And there are like about 40 or 50 like interviews in bite-sized chunks in a way that's really easy to read. So I would recommend one of these by Tim Ferriss. Can't go wrong, whichever one you pick.
Nice. Another good one here is, what is the best trait that a leader can have?
The willingness to learn, and the willingness to admit when you don't know. A lot of people, when they want to become leaders, they think that the best way is to be impressive all the time. And so sometimes they put pressure on themselves to sound like they know things when they don't know them. Or they try too hard to make a strong impression. And what a lot of people miss out on is that the leaders that command the most respect are the leaders that are human, the leaders that are genuine, the leaders that are authentic, the leaders that are willing to say, you know, I've never thought about it that way before. Or, you know, I don't know the answer to that, but give me some time. Let me work on it. Let me ask around. Let me get back to you. Or, you know, I don't know how to do that, but I'm willing to try. You know, people respect that, and they know they can trust you, because when you're willing to admit when you're wrong, when you're willing to admit that you don't know something, and you're willing to learn from every situation, people will say, you know what? This person may not be the smartest person in the room, but they're never going to go beyond their current level of knowledge. And if they need help, they're going to ask the people that know. And so they're always going to find a way to get it done. The person who always has to be right and never acts like they don't know, oh, it's a tough leader to follow. Those are the two most important qualities I'd say to start with.
Great. Another good one is, how do you pick a career when you don't know what you like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of people say, follow your passion. And what I like to say is follow your curiosity, you know, because when you think about your career in terms of follow your passion, it puts a lot of pressure on you, and it makes you feel like, oh my gosh, I got to know what my passion is, you know, by the time I'm 20 years old, because I got to figure out what it is, and I've got to marry it, and I've got to never change what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And anybody in their 40s will tell you that as you grow older, as you accumulate more experiences, you evolve. Your concept of life evolves. I remember when I was 20, I was talking to this older guy, and I was just so nervous and stressed out about the future. And I told him, I want to live this good life. And he said to me, he says, kid, if I were to have you write down your idea of what a good life is and give that to me, and then I showed it to you again when you turn 40, you would look at it and you would laugh. And he was absolutely right. You're going to change, right? So the best approach to take for your careers is start with, what are you interested in right now? And what's something that you can do to create value for people right now? And what's the best combination of that right now? And those are questions that you can answer right now. But once you start trying to predict, well, what am I going to like when I'm 45? And how should I prepare for that now? You can't do that. You can't know at age 16 what you're going to like when you're 45. You just can't know. So stop trying to figure that out. Start with what you're interested in right now, because that's the stuff, when you study it, it's going to resonate with you. You're going to remember it. You're going to hang on to it. You're going to be able to use it creatively. And then, you know, when you get 25, when you get 30, and you become interested in something else, the beautiful thing about life is you can change things up. You can learn something new. You can develop new skills, and you can use the things that you have learned and that you have done in the past to help yourself pivot. One of the things I talked about last week was that guy who was a musician, and he became interested in neuroscience a little bit later on in life, went back to school and studied neuroscience, and turned out to be a really interesting, distinct, unique neuroscientist, because he was able to explain it in terms of music, and people love that, you know? So do what you know to do now without putting pressure on yourself to know what you're going to love when you're 50, and accumulate valuable experiences, because as you accumulate experience, you'll acquire more self-knowledge, and your idea of what you want to do will become clearer. But you need to actually get some experience. Don't try to figure this all out in your head.
So a good question to follow up on that one, I think a lot of people are wondering, how do you self-motivate? What are the most effective ways to motivate yourself?
Well, you know, it's like asking what's the most successful way to make sure that whenever I turn my car on, it's always got the fuel that it needs to go. And that is to make sure that I stop and get gas, to make sure I fuel up my tank. And I think this is a very good analogy, because I hate stopping at the gas station. You know, when I'm in my car, I want to go where I want to go, and I want to come home, and I want to be done with it. I never enjoy stopping at the gas station. It always feels like an interruption. It always feels like this really boring activity. But I know that I have to do it, whether it's fun or not, because it's only by keeping fuel in my tank that my car, when I try to turn it on and I need my car to take me somewhere, my car is going to go, all right, TK, I got what I need. Let's roll. But if I don't do that, my car, I'm going to turn ignition. I'm going to say, all right, car, take me here. And my car is going to be like, I don't have the energy, dude. I don't have the energy. Well, that's what it's like with you and I. You know, if you don't fuel yourself with a steady supply of information that's designed to keep you motivated, well, where's that motivation going to come from? Input determines output. Where's the motivation going to come from if you're not putting it in? You know, so this is why you need stuff like this. And if you don't like reading books, there are audiobooks, there are podcasts. You know, go watch episodes of Impact Theory. And it doesn't have to be something like super obsessive, like 8 hours a day or anything like that. But like, set aside, just like I talked about with comedy, set aside 15 minutes a day. Just make it a ritual. Set aside like 15 minutes a day. Go on YouTube and just pull up motivation video. And even if it doesn't have an impact right here, right now, that doesn't matter. I mean, think about it in terms of health. You know, if I'm out of shape and I never work out, you know, and I decide I'm going to go eat a plate of broccoli, it's not like I'm going to go eat that plate of broccoli and then I'm going to go look in the mirror and see a different dude. It's not like I'm going to go eat that plate of broccoli and then all of a sudden feel healthy. You know, I'm going to feel the same. But what I just did was great. I just put something really good in my system. And if I keep doing that, I keep showing up and doing that every day, I'm going to start to see the changes. It's the same way with motivation. Set aside 15 minutes every day. Go pull up like an episode of Impact Theory, an episode of Tim Ferriss. Y'all know the people that are out there. Eric Thomas, whoever, you know better than me who's out there. But go watch something for 15 minutes every day, regardless of if it motivates you or not. And you keep that habit, that stuff's going to infect you for good. It's going to be in you and it's going to start becoming a habit. But you got to put it in if you want it to come out.
Very good advice. I think the best one for us to end on here is, as teenagers, what can we do to start on our path to becoming leaders?
The best thing you can do is value all forms of work, because all forms of work can make you mature, can make you valuable, and can make you more trustworthy. You see, as leaders, one day you're going to have people who do things for you. And you want to make sure that when you ask people to do things for you, that you don't ask them to do things that you yourself haven't proven your willingness to do. You know, a leader isn't just about having a title or a position. A leader is someone that can actually make other people feel excited about working for you. That's what great leaders do. Great leaders are the kind of people, they have a vision. They say, this is where I want to take the company. This is where I want to take the organization. This is what I want to do. And everybody says, I would love to be on your team. I would love to work with you. I'd love to take out the garbage for you. Whatever I can do to be a part of your vision. And how do you generate that response from people? By being the type of person that will take the garbage out yourself. If there's any form of work like, oh, I don't want to work in fast food, I'm too good for that. I don't want to take out the garbage. I just want to be the guy that wears the suit and has the nice title. It's going to be very hard for people to get respect for you. You know, it's going to be very hard to relate to human beings. You know, how in the world are you going to be someone who runs a business if you can't take out the garbage, or you're too good to take out the garbage? Because somebody's going to work for you and they're going to take the garbage out for you. You want that person to be on your side. You want that person to be an ally. When I used to work at this restaurant called Papado Seafood, and the general manager there, his name's Asogi. he would make all the servers excited about doing things for him. And the reason why is because Asogi was the kind of guy where if there was a spill on the floor, he'd grab a mop and he'd start mopping it. And within 10 seconds, some server would run up and grab that mop out of his hand, push him aside. I got it, Asogi. And they start mopping for him. Asogi would see the garbage needs to be taken out. He'd go grab it. Within 5 seconds, somebody snatching it out of his hand. I got it, Asogi. I'll take out the garbage. I'll run the hot food, Asogi. And the reason why he had people loving to help him out was because he always put himself out there as the kind of guy that's never too good to talk to his customers, never too good to run hot food, never too good to pick up a broom and start sweeping. All forms of work are valuable because every form of work teaches you how to serve other people. So when you're young and you don't have a lot of experience, whatever you can do, being part of a student organization, coaching little league, playing in little league, at this stage, you're so young. If it seems interesting, it's worth a try because you're going to learn something. You may not ever be an actor. Grace and I were talking about this before we started. You may never be an actor. Take a theater class. Go be in a play. It doesn't matter if you want to be an actor or not. You'll learn really cool things about, building self-confidence, working with other people. Go do choir for a little bit. Go to a choir rehearsal to see what it's like. Try to accumulate as much experience as you can because that's what's going to make you an interesting person, and that's what's going to make you able to relate to any kind of person. And as a leader, you need to be able to relate to the unrelatable.
Thanks, TK. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I know we're at time. This went by so fast. I'm so mad at myself because I wanted more time for the questions. Okay, I promise y'all, this next time I'm gonna cut my talking down because we've had 2 sessions together now. We've got 2 more left, so I'm cutting my talking down to like 20 minutes, and I'm gonna create a bulk of time for questions. So, but this was awesome. I enjoyed doing this again. I hope you enjoy doing it as well. We have that survey again, at the on the screen that you should be able to see. It just takes 2 minutes. Do me that favor and do that survey. It's all like yes or no questions. That feedback is very valuable and useful for me. And make sure, because I get a copy of everything that's in this chat. So if there's some question that you still want to leave on the table, you want me to be aware of, feel free to type it in, and that will be sent to me later, and I'll have it for my records, and I can try to work that into one of our future presentations. But hey, I want you all to have a great Friday night. I want you to have a fantastic weekend. Make the most of your time. And I want to thank you for spending this time here. There are a lot of things you could be doing on your Friday night. So to make yourself available to some session that's talking about leadership, to me, that's commendable. That says a lot about you. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of your journey. I know in 10 years, 15 years, it's your name that the world is going to be talking about. And I'll be able to sit back and watch all the great work y'all are doing and say, hey, I was some small piece of that person's journey, and that's going to feel good. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I'll see you all next week.